And also we have the MALBIM, Rabbi Meir Lebish Ben Yair Michael Weiser, also 1809, 1879. He said that our sacred sages had a tradition that at the beginning of the end times would arise a Messiah, an anointed Savior. Mashiach in Hebrew means anointed one. Even anything was set aside for a sacred purpose. And for instance, the temple service would be anointed. You had a vessel, you had something you're going to use in the temple service. They would anoint it, put sacred oil on it, set it aside. It would be only used for that task in that place. So to an anointed one is someone, a king would be anointed, because he is set aside from the rest of the people, and he has certain rights and prerogatives, and he has duties beyond those of other people. And so that was the case. And he says, this anointed Savior from the house of Joseph will reign over the 10 tribes. He will wage war. Sometimes the Messiah Ben Yosef is referred to the Messiah, the anointed Prince of War. That was one of his titles. He is identified with the anointed Prince of War. That was one of his main tasks, to defeat the enemies of Israel, meaning both of the Jews and of the 10 tribes. He will wage wars, and all of Israel will be gathered together under his banner. This will continue until later on a descendant of David will appear, and he will reign over them. That is, the descendant of David will reign over them. A transformation will take place. The 10 tribes in the stick of Joseph will draw themselves closer unto the stick of Judah. And this still will be through the agency of a prophet and by miracles. We've just been studying a little bit of Joel, the book of Joel, and there too he mentions in his chapter 3 and 4 that in the end times a new spirit will come over people. The prophecy will return. And this could happen. This will happen, but it could happen very quickly. Don't know how things turn out. Also, sometimes point out that not in our lifetime we saw the collapse of the Soviet Union. If someone had have said a year beforehand that the Russia and all the communist bloc are just going to say we're tired, we can't take it anymore. Please come in and take us over. We don't want to. We're tired of communism. You wouldn't have believed him. If someone had wrote a book of fiction saying that, it wouldn't have not have been credible. But that is what happened. How did it happen? People that saw it, they said it should have been obvious. We already knew it, and so on. But it wasn't that way. At the time, it looked. It would have seemed a very unlikely event to take place. Those great changes can take place overnight or very quickly. Also, the MALBIM continues. It says in Micah 5:1, it has already been clarified in Ezekiel 37 at the end time the 10 tribes were the first to arouse themselves, and over them will reign the Messiah, son of Joseph. And they will accomplish great things. The tribe of Judah will be scattered amongst the nations, and they will attach themselves to the 10 tribes. And both will be ruled over by the Messiah, son of Joseph, until there will arise the anointed descendant of David in the might of the Lord. At that time they will all, both Joseph and Judah, accept upon themselves the kingship of the house of David. Then wars will cease, for the Gentiles will request guidance from him, from the Messiah, son of David. And he goes on with more details about that, and that is also a source of importance. He is an important source. He is a revered source. He is considered an authority. Also, Wikipedia, the great authority of Wikipedia has also an interesting article on Messiah ben Joseph. Sometimes they have good articles, sometimes they don't. In this case, they have a good article on Messiah, son of Joseph. They bring a lot of sources of value. And they say throughout the Hebrew Bible, Ephraim is often used to refer collectively to the northern kingdom. Ephraim was the leading tribe in the north. It has been claimed, it says, because sometimes we hear this, it's been claimed that Messiah ben Joseph does not represent the leader of the lost 10 tribes, and that he is never presented as such, but rather he is presented as the leader of all of Israel. So Messiah ben Joseph sometimes represented as leader of all of Israel. But he goes on. The Wikipedia itself admits some later Jewish sources do explicitly call the Messiah ben Joseph the leader of the 10 lost tribes. And that is what we came across. And he says later sources, but some of these sources are quite actually earlier ones. But at all events, the major point is that he is recognized as being to be the Messiah, son of Joseph. And then we have S.R. Hirsch, Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, 1808-1888. He says the descendants of Ephraim will complement the tribes of Israel. They shall be their weapons of war towards outsiders.
Amen.
They shall be their weapons of war towards outsiders. This is a prophecy. His descendants will supplement what is lacking in the external affairs of the other tribes. The dreaded awe of Ephraim shall be on the other nations. The Ephraimites shall intensify the power of the tribes and by their force of arms, be their force of arms against foreigners. It says the kingdom of Ephraim was similar in its characteristics to a non-Jewish polity. That would be like Goyim. And he says, he also says, elsewhere, the house of Joseph, house of Judah, according to the prophets, encompass all the Israelite people. Judah and Joseph encompass all the Israelites. We shall have a tradition in the last days that shall rise an heir to the house of Joseph, to prepare the ground for a chosen seed from the house of Judah. Mashiach ben Yosef prepares the way for that. Mashiach ben David. And he says the relationship between the two is not clear. Nevertheless, there's certainly hope for the emphasis of Jacob that in the future, hope and blessings would converge on Joseph, no less than on Judah. Another point worth noting is that Rabbi Moshe David Valley, about 1777, in Italy, is quite an important commentator, and he says it does not matter that Israel, that is Ephraim, the northern 10 tribes, he's talking about Ephraim in this context, says that Ephraim did not descend into the realms of pollution, he was not exiled and cast out, other than the need to clarify his destiny. He needed to fulfill the will of God and reform the world through redirecting his forces. When this is done, they shall return to their source. There will be no need to remain in that situation anymore. This is the meaning of Ephraim shall say, what have I to do anymore with idols? In other words, what he is saying is what we have also been saying based on our sources, that the lost 10 tribes had sinned, they'd gone in along the way of the Gentiles, as it's explained, as we see in the Bible, chapter 17 and elsewhere, in detail. And for that reason they were exiled. It was a punishment, but together with the punishment is also there's a divine purpose behind it. And they were destined to lose awareness of their ancestry, become lost, but physically stay together, and to go down to the level of the Gentiles, to become like the Gentiles, even be pagans like the Gentiles, and slowly to evolve upwards to bring to elevate the rest of the world with them. And this is what they have done. From the point of view of the Gentiles, the world is a much better place, a much cleaner place, a much more humane place than it previously was, largely by virtue of the British and the Americans. First the British Empire and the French Empire. The French Empire also in France, also many for the lost 10 tribes. Also Zarephath, it says expressly that the lost 10 tribes will be in Zarephath. Rashi also says that, but in the book of Obadiah mentions Zarephath. And that is France, and also the northern areas, according to Hernandez, and also mentioned the western areas of Europe in general. So the lost, but at all events, that is where they were, and they also had empires. The Dutch had an empire, the French had an empire. The French empire was very good. It's probably as good as, or some say better than the British, and it did also elevate the people who ruled over. It reformed them, civilized them, and the British Empire also did. The British Empire, you can see the old statistics. The population of India increased greatly. They stopped the human sacrifice. They stopped a lot of pagan practices. And they introduced the concepts of civilization that were accepted by the peoples. And all Mahova helped, but here and there they went wrong. They were also the humans, also people. They did it, sometimes they acted out of greed, out of the need to survive, to make money, to provide for themselves, and so on. And sometimes they weren't on the straight and narrow as much as they should have been, but relatively speaking, they were. Compared to the alternative, they were usually much, much better. But Ravali was saying that, also Rav Kook talks about this, that the Gentiles evolved to a certain stage until there will be no more need for Ephraim to be part of them. Ephraim will be able to reassert his Israelite ancestry, and he will return. How this will happen, we don't know, but it's good to be part of it, to know this, and letting them know, spreading the knowledge that is where the lost 10 tribes are part of it. It's an initial step. And there are a lot of other sources on this matter, and they all more or less say the same thing. And Rabbi Abraham Cohen Cook, 1865, 1935, is very important in recent Jewish history and was Jewish religious thought. And he says that it's due to this relative advantage of Joseph having been assimilated to the ways of the nations, that Esau can only be defeated by the children of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. Esau represents Europe, the forces of Europe, probably Russia, Germany, those places. And in the end times will be a war between them and the children of Rachel, as there has been. The First and Second World Wars can be also considered as preparations for them, forerunners of what will happen in the end times. And each time it gets closer and closer to the reality. And of course, the saying, the axe that chops down the tree itself has a wooden handle, that the lost 10 tribes had to be similar to them, part of them, intermixed with them, in order to be able to reform them and cope with them. So that is what Rabbi Cook is saying, and we have quite a few articles on related matters. So that is what we have concerning the Messiah, son of Joseph. Has anyone any questions, any comments to make?
Has there anybody ever been designated as Messiah ben Joseph, as an individual? You mentioned that there's a movement. The whole movement can be considered Messiah ben Joseph. But is there an individual that also could represent that?
National Religious in Israel, as we said, they see Zionism as embodying the spirit of Messiah, son of Joseph, of preparing the way. And there are some who try to say that Herzl, the leader, who was one of the founding spirits of modern Zionism, in some sense was the Messiah, son of Joseph.
I see. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
But that's an idea. Nothing really concrete about it. But that was an idea that has come up.
Yeah. I think
in his eulogy, when he died, there was a eulogy. He made a eulogy for him, and Rabbi Cook spoke at his eulogy. And at his eulogy, he said that he referred to the Messiah, son of Joseph, said the Messiah, son of Joseph, represents the Israelite or the Jew who assimilates to the way of the Gentiles, becomes like the Gentiles, and reforms the Gentiles from within, which is what we saw Rabbi Valley said was the whole point of the exile of the 10 tribes, was to do that in another way, but it's the same idea, similar idea.
Yeah.
But also Joshua in the Old Testament.
Can you talk what do you say, Yochanan?
Joshua in the Old Testament, who led the tribes into the promised land.
That's right. I have a source that says that Joshua Kent was a reincarnation of the Messiah, son of Joseph, that he was, seem to say, a forerunner of his.
Yeah.
But in some sources, the Messiah, son of Joseph, will be descendant of Joshua.
Yeah.
Conquered the land.
Yeah, that makes
also from the tribe
sense.
of Ephraim.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So I have a question.
Okay.
How does Elijah fit into this?
So you're right there, Elijah. You have a few others, and we see here that tasks that were traditionally associated with Elijah have now been apportioned to Mashiach ben Yosef. So who is who and who's going to be where? We don't know. We won't know until the end times. But as we said, the whole idea of the Messiah, son of Joseph, is part of a movement. That there will be a movement that changes the spirit of preparation for the future ruler, Messiah, son of David, and different people will have different tasks. So the Messiah, son of Joseph, will be one of them, and Elijah will be another, whoever Elijah will be. We're interested in this because it's interesting. It's right. It's part of understanding what will happen, but also because it's associated with the tribe of Joseph, the 10 tribes, and also helps us confirm our identifications of the 10 tribes. So that's why we emphasize it. That's why we studied it.
So I have another question about Elijah. He was a Tishbite, right?
Yes.
And he wasn't, so he was from a prophet from the northern kingdom, right?
Yes, Tishbe, yes, Gilead.
Gilead.
Either probably Manasseh, but others say that there's a tradition that he was a Cohen. He's a Cohen. He was from the tribe of Levi then.
I'm kind of curious as far as when he does return, and I'm assuming that he is because it's prophesied that he's going to. Is he going to come as a Jew, or is he going to come as from a northern kingdom? Is he going to come from the 10 tribes, or is he going to come as one of the from Judah? And here's the second part of this question: if he is coming from one of the 10 tribes, is he going to have to convert?
The impression is that he will be Jewish.
Okay.
He will be known as Jewish, recognizable as Jewish.
Okay.
I don't know. Also, you're asking, Messiah, son of Joseph, will he be Jewish? Will he have to convert? What is his story? Is the same question about him.
Right.
So we won't know until the time comes. Also, there will be a different appreciation at that time. He will also have be a prophet, have a spiritual powers of his own. So anyway, we'll wait, we'll live and see, Be'ezrat Hashem.
I understand.
Our children, our grandchildren, well, their children, whenever it comes, it comes.
I know, whatever it comes, whatever will be, right?
Well, I would like to say, Holly, you can come right after me. I would like to say thank you for your work and for your indefatigability. Oh, there's a long word, but I really appreciate the way you don't give up and you're keeping on with this ministry. So do keep it up, and may God bless you.
Okay, thank you. May God bless all of you, all of us, and all of our families and our peoples. And see you later. Thank you. Bye.
Well, Holly had something she wanted to say.
Holly, you want to say something?
I just wanted to agree with what Mr. Murray said about your priceless research and body of knowledge that you've given to us. It's inspiring, and I certainly have read and reread many of your books and go into the website quite often, and we've chatted before on Facebook. You've answered some of my questions, so I certainly appreciate you taking time to do that. Tonight I joined in when you were talking about the ancestral memory and the tribe of Levi, and that really spoke to me. That was it's been stirring in my spirit, and And so that was the Lord that I came right in at that moment. So that was neat.
Good, good.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.